Hey guys, welcome back. Video number 2 on GED practice test. So we'll keep going here. So we're on number 10. So if a class has 10 men and 14 women, what is the ratio of men to the class? So the key part here is that you read to the class, right? Not men to women, right? The ratio is clearly 10 to 14 men to women, but the class has 24 people in it. 10 plus 14 is 24, so the ratio is going to be 10 to 24. Okay, you got a rope that costs $3.20 per yard or 15 cents per inch, which is the better deal. And they tell us that 1 yard equals 3 feet equals 36 inches. So 1 yard is 36 inches. So we need to get this one that's in inches to yards, right? So we're going to go 0.15 times 36. That ends up being $5.40, which is a lot more than $3.20. And so this one, 320 is the better deal. Which of the following ratio pairs forms a proportion? Okay, so that kind of worded kind of weird. All they're really saying is like, does 3/5 equal 15/26? Which one of these ratios equal each other? Okay, so to do that, like the 26 doesn't really work with 5 very well, right? Because 5 times 5 is 25, 5 times 6 is 30. It's hard to figure that one out, so this one will be wrong. And we should cross that one out real quickly. 17 over 20. 20 times 3 is 60. Okay, so we have that 60 over there. 17 times 3 is 51. So this one looks good. So usually you should go through each of them, even if you think you found the right answer, just to make sure there's only one good one. If there's 2 or 3 good ones, then you got to check your math, right? So 8 times 20 is 160. 3 times 20 is 60, but they have 65 here, so that's wrong. 7 times 4 is 28. 4 times 4 is 16, and they have 12. So we're good with 17 over 20 equals 51 over 60. Okay, slope question. So what we got to know for slope is a formula, and it's y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1 is slope. And what we're looking for here is that like this 3 is x1, the negative 6 is y1. The negative 9 is x2, the 2 is y2, right? So when we're doing our formula for slope, we'll go 2 minus negative 6, which is really 2 plus 6 because we've got 2 negatives there, divided by negative 9 minus 3, right? So the 2 minus negative 6 equaled 2 plus 6, that equaled 8, divided by the negative 9 minus 3 was negative 12. So we have 8 over negative 12, which we can reduce down to negative 2/3. Okay, so that is the answer there. We do have videos that go over slope and some coordinate geometry stuff, and I will put that in the description. Okay, another slope question. So this one's harder, but we can do it. So a line with the coordinates 7, y, and negative 2, negative 4 has a slope of 3/4. What is the value of y? Okay, so we start kind of the same way, right? Where it's negative 4 minus y, right? So this was x1 is 7, y1 is this y, x2 is this negative 2, y2 is this negative 4. Okay, so we go negative 4 minus y divided by negative 2 minus 7 equals this 3/4. Okay, so then we have, all right, on the numerator on the top, negative 4 minus y divided by negative 9, right? I got that negative 9 because I went negative 2 minus 7 is negative 9. So what number over negative 9 equals 3/4? So first we know it's going to have to be a negative number, right? Because we need to have both negatives on the top and the bottom to get it to be a positive 3/4 here. And that number is probably going to be somewhere between negative 6 and negative 7. So the way I know that, like negative 6 divided by negative 9 would equal 2/3, which is smaller than 3/4. And so but it's somewhere in that range, right? So without even doing the math, like somewhere, I mean, I did a little bit of math, but kind of just general. it'll be somewhere in there. So if we look at this 2.75, so if I go -4 minus 2.75, that gives me -6.75 divided by -9. So if I go and calculate that out, it ends up that -6.75 divided by -9 equals 0.75 or 3/4. And so that's going to be the answer that we go with. As you plug in these other numbers into that little formula that we have, you will not get the correct answer. Like, for example, with this -2.75, if you think that might work, so if you go -4 minus -2.75, we got the double negatives there, so we're adding, so it's -4 plus 2.75. That'll give us a -1.25 divided by -9 is not going to be anywhere close to 3/4. And the 6 and -6, you'll find the same, that they don't work out. So anyway, that's how we do that one. All right. XY is called, so when we have an arrow pointed in each direction like this, that's called a line. Then on this one, so these are the two that you really want to be familiar with. If the arrow is only pointed in one direction, that's called a ray. All right. So on this one, so I'm going to assume that they mean that this is a right triangle. You'd have like a little square right down here in this spot. That would signify it being a right triangle. But since it looks so much like a right triangle and everything, then I'm just going to assume that's what it is. Okay, so with a right triangle, we can use Pythagorean theorem. Right? Pythagorean theorem means a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And so if we plug these numbers in, that means 14 squared plus b squared equals 50 squared. And if we go ahead and do that math, that will mean 196 plus b squared equals 2500. Right? 14 squared is 196. 50 squared is 2500. I'll subtract 196 from both sides. B squared equals 2304. And if I square root that one, I will get b equals 48. And there's our answer. Okay, two supplementary angles have the measures of 9x degrees and 3x degrees. What is the measure of the longer angle? Okay, so you need to know that supplementary means that they add up to 180. Okay, so that's first. Without that, we can't really do this problem. That's something you'll have to know for the test. And you could immediately eliminate 180 degrees from your answer choices. There's no way that's right, because you got two angles. Each of them have to measure something, right? So there's no way that the bigger one's 180 and that the other one's 0. Okay, but the way we do this is you take your 9x and your 3x and you put them together, so you got 12x, right? And then say 12x equals 180, right? Divide each side by 12, and we'll find that x equals 15 degrees, okay? And then you're trying to find the bigger one, right? So if you're trying to find the bigger one, then you go 9 times 15, 135. That's all we need to know, right? Determine the coordinates for the midpoint of a segment with the following endpoints. Okay, midpoint 12, -8, and 8, 4. So with midpoint, all you're doing is adding the numbers together and divide by 2, right? So for the x-axis, 12 plus 8 is 20, divided by 2 is 10. -8 plus -4 is -12, divided by 2 is -6. And so we will take 10 and -6 for our final answer on that one. Okay, area of a triangle. So you do need to know that area of a triangle equals 1/2 base times height. Okay, so that's just a formula that you need to have memorized. So a triangle has an area of 110 square inches with a base of 15 inches. Which answer best pinpoints the height? Okay, so we know the area is 110, so we say 110 equals 1/2 times the base, which we know now is 15, so 1/2 times 15 times height, which we don't know. right? So the formula reads 110 equals 1/2 times 15 times h, which is height. Okay, so then we'd like to get rid of that 1/2, right? So you multiply each side by 2 to get rid of it. And then we'll say 220 equals 15h. Divide each side by 15. And h comes out to being 14.66. Okay, this is probably one of the hardest ones. Honestly, just in terms of preparing for ASVAB math in general, like when it comes down to like these like surface area type questions, is there's these different formulas you have to memorize. I would do this like dead last thing I would prepare for in ASVAB math, as opposed to like what we just did, like area of a triangle. Like that's an easier formula to memorize, and uh, other things like order of operations, like those things are going to show up more questions, easier things to learn. So I would do this dead last. Like you're just going to see like maybe one question. Like you'll see one. I doubt you see two. Um, okay, but anyway, if you want to know how to do it, surface area equals 4 pi r squared. Right, so that's what we sort of start off with um, for a cylinder. Surface area equals 4 pi r squared. So that's 4 times 3.14 r squared equals 1476, right? Because they told us that the sphere has a surface area of 1476. So if we go 4 times 3.14, that gives us 12.56 r squared equals 1476. Divide each side by 12.56, we can get the radius squared by itself. The radius squared equals 117.5. Radius is 10.8. Okay, so we still haven't even solved it yet. And then, because they asked for the circumference, right? The formula for circumference is 2 pi r, which is 2 times 3.14 times our 10.8. And then finally we get our circumference is 68.1. So we have videos on all the surface area stuff that you should watch eventually. But again, I would have this dead last, and honestly, I really wouldn't spend that much time on it, just because it's such a small percentage of your GED math grade, and it takes quite a bit of time to get comfortable with all that stuff. So that would be the last thing that I would deal with.